Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam dan bahagia. Hi guys, it is a beautiful day back with me Gisela, Nadya, Noviani. And how are you guys? I hope that you are always fine, happy and healthy. So in this video, we are going to talk about culture differences and similarities between Malaysia and Indonesia. First of all, let me to explain a little bit about Malaysia and Indonesia. The first country is Malaysia. Malaysia is a country in the Southeast Asia, lying just north of the equator, that is composed of two regions. The first region is Peninsular Malaysia or Semenanjung Malaysia or Malaysia Barat, which is in Malay Peninsula. And the second is East Malaysia or Malaysia Timur, which is in Borneo Island. And the second country is Indonesia. Indonesia is also a country in the Southeast Asia. Indonesia is the world's largest island country. Indonesia consists of 5 major islands and about 30 smaller groups. The largest islands are Sumatra, Java, Borneo, or in Indonesia known as Kalimantan, and Sulawesi, and the last is New Guinea or Papua. So let's move to the differences and similarities between Indonesia and Malaysia. The first is about language differences. Actually, in the word that I found, there are some words that have same spelling and pronunciation, but they have a different meaning. Okay, the first word is budak. Budak in Indonesia is like a slave, but in Malaysia, budak is a kid. Then the second word is gampang. Gampang in Indonesia is easy or not difficult. So when people in Indonesia can do the test easily, usually they say, "Wah, soalnya gampang ya." But different in Malaysia. In Malaysia, gampang is a bad word. Gampang is a child who born out of the wedlock. Or in Indonesia, we can say with anak haram. The next word is kulkas. Kulkas in English is refrigerator, but a lot of Malaysian people don't know what kulkas is. In Malaysia, kulkas called as peti ais or peti sejuk. And the last word is mangga. Mangga in Indonesia is a fruit that is mango, but in Malaysia, mangga have two different meanings. The first is mango, and the second is padlock. Padlock itself in Indonesia is gembok. Okay, the next is about language similarities, especially in greetings. The first is how are you? Malaysians say apa kabar, and Indonesians say apa kabar. There is a little bit difference in spelling. Malaysia with H, that is Khabar, and Indonesian without H, that is Kabar. The second is thank you. In Malaysia, people will say terima kasih, and in Indonesia, people will say terima kasih. And the next is bye. Both of Malaysia and Indonesia, people will say selamat tinggal to saying goodbye. And the last is good morning and good night. Both of Indonesian and Malaysian will say selamat pagi for good morning and selamat malam for good night. But there is a little difference. Malaysians don't say good afternoon or in Indonesia is selamat siang, but they say good evening or selamat petang. In Indonesia, selamat petang is selamat sore. And the next is about food and cuisine. Because the location of Malaysia and Indonesia were really close, it makes sense that they have same food and taste. But of course, they have their own version. The first is rendang. Both of Malaysia and Indonesia have rendang. In Malaysia, rendang can be liquidy with gravy or dry, while in Indonesia, rendang is special food from Padang and have many versions in each area. And the second is satay. In English, satay is like skewer. In Malaysia, there are many kinds of satay, They have chicken version, beef, mutton, a rabbit, or some do deer. But in Indonesia, there is no satay from deer, and satay from rabbit it's not common in Indonesia. Then they eat satay with peanut sauce. The next is soto. Both of them have soto. In Malaysia, soto also called as noodle soup. While in Indonesia, although we put a noodle in soto, but it is not noodle soup. The next is nasi goreng. Both of Malaysia and Indonesia have the same nasi goreng. And the last is sambal terasi. In English, terasi is shrimp paste. In Malaysia, sambal terasi called as sambal belacan. And the next is about the other differences between Malaysia and Indonesia. The first is about identity card. In Indonesia, we have KTP or Kartu Tanda Penduduk, and in Malaysia, they have IC or identification card. In Indonesia, people have KTP at 17 years old, but in Malaysia, they have IC at 12 years old, but they can change their photo at 18 years old. IC in Malaysia can also use for touch and go, or in Indonesia like toll card. And the next is about saying kakak. Kakak in Indonesia usually used to call the older brother or the older sister. But in Malaysia, kakak used to call just for the older sister or just for female, and also can be used to call the household assistant, or in Indonesia called as asisten rumah tangga. In Malaysia, they use abang to call the older brother. And the next is highway rules. In Indonesia, motorcycle is not allowed to enter the toll roads, while in Malaysia, they allow motorcycle to enter the toll roads. In Malaysia, the number of the motorcycle is not as much as in Indonesia. They prefer to buy a car because the price of the car there is quite affordable. And the next is about the cinema. In Indonesia, if the time in the ticket is 6:30, so it means the door of the cinema will be open 15 or 10 minutes before the 6:30. But in Malaysia, if in the ticket the time is 6:30, usually the door is still closed. It means that if you enter the cinema at 6:30, you won't be late. Because after the 6:30, there will be an advertisement for about 10 minutes, and then the film will be start after the advertisement. And the next is about passport. In Indonesia, when the local people wants to travel to other city with the airplanes, they don't have to bring a passport. But difference in Malaysia, Malaysian people when they want to travel to other city, for example from Sabah or Sarawak to Malaysia Peninsular, they have to bring a passport, and vice versa. But different in Peninsular Malaysia, if you are from Kuala Lumpur to Penang, you don't have to bring a passport, but different with the foreigner. The foreigner still have to bring a passport wherever they go. And the last but not least, I hope that this video can make many people more awareness about the cross-cultural understanding, because it is important, very important, to know about the cultural differences between countries, so there will be no conflict between us. Because if we have little knowledge about the cross-cultural understanding, maybe there will be many of disputes between countries. For example, when Indonesians didn't know the meaning of gampang in Malaysia, then one day they travel in Malaysia, then they said gampang, which is the meaning is easy. But in Malaysia, gampang is the bad word or should not be said. I'm afraid there will be misunderstanding between them. Same with the Malaysian. If they didn't know the meaning of budak in Indonesia, then one day they travel to Indonesia and call the kids or child In Indonesia, with budak, I think there will be misunderstanding if the child or the kids didn't know the meaning of budak in Malaysia, as well as the other word. So, with the knowledge of the cultural differences, I hope that there will be no misunderstanding between us. So that's all that I can share in this opportunity, and I hope this video can help you to more understand about some cultural differences between Malaysia and Indonesia. Thank you, salam.